Hey friends, today I'm building a starter home with 90s inspired decor. Let's check it out. So I'm back in Newcrest building this house, and I'm building on the lot next door to the starter that I built last time, which I'll link here if you missed that one. But yeah, for this one, I thought it'd be kind of fun to try to do it in sort of a 90s style and see, if that's really even possible as a starter and if there's, enough content to do that. So yeah, I ended up using a lot of items from the Cozy Kitsch kit that came out a few months ago now. A little late to the game on that one, but yeah, it's got quite a few different pieces that have sort of a 90s, even like 70s kind of look to them, which I thought would be perfect for this house. And the layout for this house is actually inspired by a house that my dad lived in the 90s and early 2000s, kind of after my parents got divorced. They got divorced when I was 4, so yeah, I don't really remember them being married, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, the layout, it's very simple, very small house, just like one bedroom. But I was able to get a basement in this house since that house had a basement, and that's like where my room was. I couldn't make the basement very big in this house in The Sims, just since it's a starter and didn't have a lot of budget for that. But there's certainly plenty of space if you want to download this and expand the basement or whatever. But yeah, and for the front door, I think it's probably a little bit more 70s inspired than 90s. But, I feel like there was a lot of influences from the 70s in the 90s. I was just a kid back then, but, with how cyclical trends are, I can kind of see a lot of those influences, especially, now there's a lot of kind of 2000s era stuff. And I remember growing up in the 2000s, there was a lot of 80s influences in like design and fashion and all of that. So yeah, I think that door still kind of makes sense, even if it's maybe a little bit more 70s than 90s. And while the last house that I did was base game only, this one definitely is not. I did use quite a few different packs because I wanted to try to find as many items as I could that would fit into the budget and this sort of 90s theme that I wanted to go with. But yeah, I didn't use every pack, so hopefully it's fairly easy to download if you'd like to. But yeah, I used a lot of carpet throughout, a lot of linoleum. It's certainly very popular, especially in cheaper houses, and a lot of beige. And I used, at least for the bedroom and the living room, there was one swatch of that paint that had a little bit more texture to it, and it reminded me of like sponge painting. I don't know if you're familiar with that at all, but I just remember that was kind of a thing where you would literally take big sponges and like use them to texture the wall, like while you're painting. Yeah, very, very odd. There was a lot of interesting things like that going on in the in the 90s and early 2000s. It's kind of like the popcorn ceiling of wall textures. Not quite as dramatic, I would say, but certainly a lot going on with walls and things. And yeah, here in the kitchen, I was kind of going back and forth on the counters a bit. I would have liked to use the horse ranch one if there was a swatch that wasn't quite so rustic looking. Like if the wood had been, a little bit smoother or just like cleaner or nicer looking. Because I think the colors were a little bit better. I thought using some sort of almost like a butcher block counter would have kind of fit the theme a little bit better. But yeah, the swatches just weren't quite working for me. So I ended up using the counters from For Rent, which I think worked fairly well. I don't know if they're super 90s, but there's something about them that just kind of worked for me. And of course, just kind of used the cheapest appliances, mostly just to stay within budget. But honestly, the fridge especially felt very 90s to me. I think I had that fridge growing up. But yeah, and same with the bathroom, pretty simple furnishings there. And I do playtest this before I uploaded it, so everything seemed to work fine. And I went with that futon bed from City Living, I believe, which I think worked really well. I thought about using the used version that they have, but I didn't want this to feel like old necessarily, like kind of junky. Like I imagine all of the items are fairly new if this was, in the actual 90s. So yeah, I didn't think that would make sense. It would have saved a little bit of money, but I just didn't really think it was worth it. But yeah, I think the wardrobe that I ended up using worked really well. Like that kind of rattan look was very big at that time. So yeah, I think that fit in really well. And I used this kind of fake fireplace from the Cozy Kitsch kit. That's a tough one to say, but yeah, I didn't realize that it wasn't a functional fireplace. When I was playtesting, I was trying to like light a fire in it, which was not an option, but I think that's fine. I probably didn't need to put the tile underneath, but maybe at one point that was a functional fireplace and maybe they blocked it up and they left a stone under it. Who knows? That's kind of the story, I guess. And then I was going to try to put a TV cabinet over here for obviously the TV and the game console, but yeah, it didn't really work. There wasn't quite enough room in that corner. One item that I would really love to see in the game is a corner TV cabinet that maybe like the TV would snap onto, at an angle diagonally on it. I think that would be really useful. I'd love to see one of those. And at first I used these, they're technically bookcases from that same kit, kind of off on the side there by the fireplace, which I really love, but they ended up being a little bit too expensive, so I ended up getting rid of those later. But yeah, I definitely want to use those in a future build. I really like the set that they came with. I think that was such a great addition for that kit. But yeah, used pretty much everything in the from the kit in the living room. And yeah, I was able to get a computer in here, which is really useful. Kind of went back and forth between the cheapest computer and the one that looks even older. But I thought the even older looking one looked maybe a little bit too old, like something from the 80s, which I didn't think would really fit. So I feel like the cheap one kind of worked, and then I just changed it into changed the color to white, which feels appropriate for the time. I feel like every computer was white back then, like your Gateway computer that came in like the cow print box, if you have any idea about that. If you've never seen that, you should look it up. It was kind of wild. And I ended up adding a second door in the through the bathroom, because I remember that my dad's house had that, where you could like walk through the bathroom to the back of the house, so you could basically walk in a complete circle around the house, which is kind of odd, but I think it was kind of useful for gameplay too. It made it easier to get through. But yeah, and then for the basement, I added a couple of these decorative items like the water heater and the fuse box. Probably not the best use of money, but I really wanted to have that look of these kind of utilities down here. And I put in a washer and dryer here at first, but later on I'll actually get rid of the dryer and put a clothesline outside, just to save money, really. So that could be something that you change if you want to play in this house. But yeah, I liked having the sink and the washer and dryer down here. I thought that made sense. And then I'll also add a painting easel a little bit later, because I was like trying to add some more skill items to the build. But yeah, and then I was able to add a kind of back entrance to the house too, which I thought would be nice for maybe for gameplay, but it's nice to just kind of have a second exit for if you want to use the backyard at some point. Obviously, this isn't a very big lot if you put it on the one that I built it on. But you could always add it to a larger lot, or move the house up a little bit and have a little bit of space. So yeah, and then I went with a bunch of debug plants like I normally do when I'm doing these kind of budget builds. So yeah, just kind of put up a hedge on the side here, kind of like a privacy hedge maybe, and just a lot of bushes everywhere. I don't know. I wasn't really sure if the landscaping was super 90s necessarily, but this is certainly way more landscaping than my dad's house had. He was not much of a gardener, we'll say, but yeah, I just wanted it to feel a little bit nicer. Like the people who live here actually care about the house and want it to kind of fit into the neighborhood, especially with all the other flowers and trees and plants and everything. So yeah, I thought a lot of these debug plants worked really well. I put these kind of a little bit taller ones on the side since there's just kind of like a big blank wall right there. And I think that helped kind of fill it up a little bit. And yeah, there's still, room to use the back if you want to. I do move the bin as well, so it's a little bit easier to get back there. So you can kind of go along the side, and yeah, I think that worked out pretty well. I also used terrain paint to draw out the paths from the stairs, mainly to save some money. But also the terrain paint that I used, it just kind of feels like something from the 90s. I don't know, something with that flagstone just, I don't know, brought me right back there. And then of course just did some, kind of dirt terrain paint underneath all of the plants, just for a little bit of realism, I guess. And yeah, I've just been like really into building these starter homes, for these last two builds. I don't know, I kind of want to build some more. So if you have any suggestions on maybe locations or maybe specific packs you want me to use, let me know. I'd love to hear that. But yeah, I kind of want to just keep building starter homes right now for some reason. I don't know, probably because I was building just a ton of commercial lots for my date night series, which if you haven't checked out, I will link at least some of them below in the description if you want to check those out. Those were a lot of fun to put together. I was kind of building a lot of different commercial lots to fill up Magnolia Promenade, just so you had kind of a reason to go to that world, honestly. But yeah, those were a lot of fun. But yeah, I'm really enjoying building these starter homes. It's been a nice change of pace. And now I'm just finishing up some final details, just kind of swapping some items, adding some things, and then I'll leave you with a tour featuring a very 90s inspired Jennifer Aniston from the gallery. So yeah, you'll want to check that out. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to watch today. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, that helps a lot, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you so much. Have a great day.